Hi, I'm Claire, 66 years young, born and raised in the quiet corners of Missoula, Montana. Life's taken me through more twists than I ever expected. And if there's one truth I've come to understand, it's this: silence often speaks louder than words, especially when it comes from the people you love most. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm always amazed by how far a single story can travel. And if this one speaks to your heart, go ahead and tap that like and subscribe button. It helps more than you know, and maybe, just maybe, someone out there needs this story too. Anyway, this story starts with a grilled cheese sandwich. No lie. I was standing barefoot in the kitchen of my son's home, making one for my 6-year-old granddaughter, Sophie. Her feet were swinging from the breakfast stool, humming some nonsense tune, hair sticking up in wild directions. It was a Sunday morning, quiet, sunny, deceptively peaceful. "Grandma," she said, not looking up, "why don't you live with us in the real part of the house?" That one sentence nearly made me drop the spatula. "I do live with you," I said, as lightly as I could manage. "No, I mean, like, with Mom and Dad. You live down the hall in the old room. That's, like, not really living here, right?" Before I could answer, Erin, my daughter-in-law, walked in, flipping through her phone. "Sophie, don't bug Grandma with questions. She's lucky we had that extra room at all." "Right. The extra room. The one that used to be the laundry room until I moved in. No closet, tiny window, barely fits a bed. But sure, I'm lucky." I bit my tongue, something I've gotten really good at doing these last 3 years. See, after my husband passed, I sold our little home and moved in with my son, Aaron, and his family. We agreed it would just be for a little while, until I figured out what was next. But a little while turned into 38 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days, not that I'm counting, and in that time, I went from being mom to being the lady who uses the back bathroom. Aaron's a good man. He always has been. But he's also spineless when it comes to Aaron. And Aaron? Aaron's made it clear I'm not family. Not really. Not the kind that counts. She never says it directly. That would require guts. But it's in the way she calls me Claire around Sophie. It's in the way she makes me keep separate grocery lists and asks if I can contribute a little something toward utilities this month. And it's definitely in the way she always leaves one chair short at the dinner table, like she forgets. There's a fourth adult living here. That morning, I brought Sophie her grilled cheese and sat beside her on the stool. "I like living here," I told her, "even if it's the room down the hall." She nodded, chewing happily. "Can we do puzzles after lunch?" "Of course." But just then, Aaron's voice rang out from the hallway. "Claire, could you take Sophie to the park this afternoon? I've got a facial at 3. "A facial? Of course. Because parenting's optional when you have a live-in grandma." "Sure," I said. "I'd love to." That's the thing, they never ask. They delegate. They assume I have nothing going on. And you know what? Most days, I don't. That's not the part that hurts. What stings is being treated like a feature of the house, like the dishwasher or the water heater, always there, expected to function, unnoticed unless I stop, and I never stop. Because of Sophie. She's my light, the only real reason I haven't packed my bags and moved into a cheap one-bedroom somewhere with creaky floors and walls so thin you can hear your neighbors breathe. After lunch, Sophie and I went to the park. She ran straight to the monkey bars while I found a shady bench. I sat there watching her, sipping coffee from a paper cup, thinking about how strange life can be. I used to teach 3rd grade. I used to manage a whole classroom of loud, sticky-fingered kids every day. Now I was a glorified babysitter for my own family. Invisible. When Sophie tripped and scraped her knee, I ran to her, holding her close while she cried into my shoulder. "It's okay, baby. Grandma's got you." She sniffled, still hiccuping. Tears. "I'm glad you live in the old room." "Me too, sweetheart." She leaned into me like she always did. But my smile didn't quite reach my eyes. Because I wasn't glad. Not really. I was tired of shrinking, tired of pretending I didn't hear Aaron's snide remarks, tired of watching Aaron avoid eye contact when she said them. That night, at dinner, they all sat at the table, and I, like always, grabbed my plate and headed to the nook in the kitchen. Aaron didn't even glance up. It was Aaron who finally spoke. "You can sit with us, Mom." But it was too late. He only said it because Sophie noticed. "Why doesn't Grandma eat with us?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "I'm fine where I am, honey." And I was. For now. But something inside me shifted that day. I started to plan. I'm not just a roommate. I'm not a backup babysitter or a placeholder for their convenience. I'm Claire, and if you stick around, I'll show you exactly what I did next. There's a moment, usually right after dinner and before Sophie's bedtime, when the house goes a little quiet. It's my favorite time of day. When I'm done with the dishes, the TV isn't blasting, and I can just sit in my little room with the door cracked open and listen to my granddaughter laugh in the bath. that laugh keeps me going more than I care to admit, but lately, something's changed. It's not just Aaron's coldness or Aaron's indifference, it's me. I don't feel like myself anymore. I used to be quick-witted, warm, able to carry a room full of 8-year-olds and make them feel safe. Now I second-guess everything I say. I catch myself whispering when I talk, apologizing for taking up space, keeping my steps soft, my breath quiet. It's like I've spent the last 3 years shrinking into silence. I don't think Aaron even sees it. He kisses Sophie goodnight, scrolls his phone on the couch while Aaron watches her cooking shows. I usually take that time to escape to my room. My space. My granny suite, as Aaron sarcastically called it once during a family barbecue that night. I sat on my tiny twin bed, legs curled under me, flipping through old photo albums I kept tucked under my mattress. Aaron at 7, grinning with missing teeth, holding up a paper turkey he made in school. Me and Tom, my husband, smiling with ice cream cones on a beach in Oregon. We didn't have much money, but we had each other. And we made it work. God, I miss him. When Tom passed, everything cracked. But it didn't break all at once. It came slowly, first the bills I didn't understand how to pay, the leaky pipe I couldn't fix, the loneliness creeping into the walls. Then Aaron came and said, "You don't have to go through this alone, Mom. Move in with us. We've got space." I believed him. I wanted to believe I still mattered, but what he really meant was, "We'll find a corner for you. Just don't get in the way." Sophie popped her head into my room later that evening, still damp from her bath, pajama top buttoned wrong. "Nana, can I sleep with you tonight?" "Of course, Peanut," I smiled, scooting over on the bed. "Why?" "Mommy and Daddy were fighting again. I don't like it when they do that." I wrapped my arms around her small body as she climbed into bed. "Sometimes grown-ups argue, but it's not your fault, okay?" "I know," she whispered, then, after a pause, "You never yell." I held her tighter. That little girl trusted me with her world, and I was holding it together with string and silence. She fell asleep quickly, breathing soft and steady. I stayed up, staring at the ceiling in the dark, wondering when I stopped being part of my own family. I thought about that often lately. What was it that changed? Was it Aaron? Was it the money Tom and I didn't leave behind? Was it Aaron growing up into someone I couldn't quite recognize? Maybe it was me. Maybe I just became easy to ignore. The next morning, Aaron was already in the kitchen when I came out to make coffee. She gave me a once-over, pajamas, bedhead, my old sweater with the loose threads. "Claire, could you make sure to pick Sophie up from her art class this afternoon?" she asked, not even bothering with a good morning. "I thought you were off today." "I have a Zoom call at 2. I nodded, reaching for the kettle. "Sure." "Oh, and if you're going to keep staying here," she added casually, "maybe we can talk about you chipping in for groceries again. Prices have gone up, you know." That tone. That fake friendly stab that always left me speechless. I wanted to snap back. I wanted to ask if she remembered I paid the electric bill for 2 months straight last year when Aaron lost his bonus. I wanted to say that I take care of her daughter every time she books a last-minute massage or takes one of her mental health days. But I just said, "Okay," and poured my coffee. Later that afternoon, I picked up Sophie, who ran into my arms with her usual excitement, paint smudges on her cheeks, glitter in her hair. Her teacher handed me a folded construction paper card. "She made this for you." Inside was a drawing, me and Sophie holding hands, a big yellow sun above our heads, and "I love Nana" in crooked crayon letters. I cried in the car that night. After Sophie went to sleep, I sat down and made a list. Not one of those life goals lists. Just a simple, honest one. 2 columns, left side, things I love, right side, things I've lost. I filled the left side easily, Sophie's laugh, the smell of basil, thunderstorms, the way Tom used to nudge me with his elbow when he wanted dessert but didn't want to say it out loud. The right side hurt more, privacy, respect, autonomy, identity. My pen hesitated for a second before I added the word, home, because this isn't home. Not really. It's a place I sleep, and help, and stay useful. But I don't belong here anymore. I'm tolerated, not included. I looked around the room. My room. A folding chair in the corner. A lamp that flickers sometimes. A blanket that doesn't quite keep the chill out in winter. This is where I ended up, but it doesn't have to be where I stay the morning after. I made that list, the one with everything I loved and everything I lost. I sat on the front porch with my cup of coffee, knees covered by a crocheted blanket that used to live on my old couch. It smelled like home. Like Tom. Like the life I used to know. The sky was gray, not rainy, not stormy, just one of those blank skies that makes everything feel like it's standing still. Sophie came out barefoot, still in her little bunny pajamas, and plopped down beside me without a word. She didn't even ask. She just knew this was our moment, like we had a rhythm the rest of the house didn't understand. "You're sad today," she said, her voice small. I turned my head toward her. I'm okay. No. Your Nana said. That's when you smile, but your eyes don't. I looked at her, this tiny human with paint-stained fingers and more wisdom than most adults I know, and I nearly broke down right there. I guess I'm just thinking about things, I said. Like what? I hesitated. Like where I fit. She wrinkled her nose. You fit with me. That did it. The tears came without warning, and I laughed at the same time. She leaned her head on my arm and didn't say another word, which was somehow exactly what I needed. Later that day, Aaron was yelling on the phone in the living room while I cleaned up Sophie's craft mess in the kitchen. No, I told you, I'm not taking on another client. I have no time as it is. I have a child, a husband, a house to run, and a mother-in-law who's basically another dependent. The words stung more than I wanted to admit, not because they were new, but because they weren't. I'd heard this before, in different forms, on different days, sometimes whispered, sometimes shouted, always meant to land out. I froze mid-wipe. Holding a sticky paintbrush in one hand and a half-washed plastic plate in the other, another dependent, like I was on the same level as the dog or the lawnmower that needed fixing. I put down the brush. My hands shook a little. I walked to my room and shut the door, careful not to slam it. I sat on the bed and stared at the floor for a long time. They don't see me, that thought hit me harder than anything else. I mean, they look at me. They talk to me. But they don't see me. Not really. They don't see the woman who raised Aaron with bedtime stories and Sunday morning pancakes. They don't see the woman who helped Tom run our small hardware store, who managed bills, planned meals, balanced checkbooks, and fixed leaking faucets because we couldn't afford a plumber. They don't see the woman who still pays for Sophie's art classes when I can, who keeps track of the school calendar so nobody forgets picture day, who remembers Aaron's birthday even though she never once remembers mine. They don't see the parts of me that existed before I became the old woman in the back room. And I realized something else, sitting on that lumpy bed with the worn quilt. I let this happen, not on purpose. Not out of weakness. But out of love. I thought if I stayed quiet, stayed helpful, stayed out of the way, I'd still have a place, that maybe kindness would earn me space, but silence doesn't get you seen. That night, Aaron came home late from work. His tie was crooked, and he looked tired. He tossed his keys in the bowl and walked straight to the fridge. I was sitting at the kitchen table, peeling potatoes for a stew I'd started. Sophie was coloring beside me, humming. He didn't even say hi, just opened the fridge, grabbed a soda, and started scrolling through his phone. Hey, I said quietly. He looked up, startled, like he forgot I was there. Oh. Hey, Mom. I waited. Nothing else. How was work? He sighed. Long. We're short-staffed, and half my team's on vacation. I nodded, watching him. He didn't ask about my day. Didn't ask about Sophie. Didn't even say thanks. For the dinner I was halfway through making, and that's when I knew for sure. I wasn't part of his world. I was orbiting it, like some leftover moon from a planet that forgot it used to matter. That night, after everyone was asleep, I opened my laptop. I hadn't touched it in months. It took me 10 minutes to remember the password. I opened a blank document. Titled it, Options. I started small. Look into senior apartments nearby, price out a one-bedroom, make a list of what I'd need to move out, sell the antique hutch in storage, that Aaron hates anyway. Talk to my friend Marcy, see if her spare room's still open. Each item I typed made me feel a little more solid, like my feet were finding ground again. I didn't know where I was going yet. But I knew I was going somewhere, just not here. Not like this. The next morning, I caught Aaron alone in the kitchen. Aaron had taken Sophie to a playdate, and the house was unusually still. I poured coffee, then looked right at him. I need to talk to you. He glanced up, eyebrows raised. What's up? I don't want to live here anymore. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. Wait. What? I set the mug down. It's time. I'm not mad. I'm just tired. I've been tired for a while. Did Aaron say something? I shook my head. This isn't about Aaron. It's about me. I don't feel like myself anymore. I don't feel seen. And that's not your fault, not completely. But I can't live invisible anymore. He rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't know you felt that way. That's kind of the problem. He didn't argue. Didn't ask me to stay. He just looked down at his hands. That told me everything. The next few days passed in a kind of fog, not a sad one, just a quiet fog where everything felt suspended, like the second before it rains. You don't know when it'll pour, but you can feel it hanging heavy in the air. Aaron didn't bring up our conversation again, and I didn't push. We had this silent agreement going. He wouldn't ask questions, and I wouldn't make demands. That's always been our pattern. I carry the weight, and he pretends it's not there, but something had changed. I wasn't carrying it the same way anymore. That Friday, I took the bus across town to the senior housing office. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Just packed my purse with some paperwork, a granola bar, and a water bottle, like I was going on a little adventure. The building was nothing fancy: tan brick, a ramp out front, plastic flowers hanging from hooks near the door. Inside, a woman named Dana greeted me with a tired but genuine smile. "You looking for placement?" she asked. I nodded. "Not today. But maybe soon." She gave me a tour. The apartments were small but clean, with bright windows. Some had balconies. There was a craft room that smelled like glue sticks and fresh paper, and a small library that had those old creaky armchairs I loved. I sat in one, just for a second, and for the first time in a long time, I imagined a life that belonged to me. Again. A space that was mine. Quiet mornings. Coffee with real cream. My own chair, my own calendar, my own remote control. No more getting called Claire like I was the cleaning lady. No more whispering because the walls are thin. No more waiting to be seen, just peace. Dana handed me a folder. "No pressure," she said. "Take it home. Think about it." I thanked her and left, walking slower than usual, letting the afternoon sun warm my face. I didn't cry. But I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Hope. That night, Erin made lasagna and didn't say a word to me. I noticed she didn't make enough for leftovers, like she usually did, just enough for her, Erin, and Sophie. I made toast and tea in the kitchen while they sat around the dining table, talking about Erin's new client and some fancy wedding they were planning. They never looked over, even Sophie seemed quieter. I brought my plate to the laundry room, my room, and sat cross-legged on the bed. Halfway through my toast, there was a soft knock. "Sophie, can I come in?" "Always." She crawled up beside me, head resting on my shoulder like she always used to. "Are you mad at mommy?" "No, sweetie. Just figuring things out." "Are you leaving?" I paused, my throat tightening. "Maybe. Not right away. But someday soon." She didn't say anything, just held my hand. "I don't want you to go," she whispered. I kissed the top of her head. "I don't want to leave you. But I also want to be somewhere where I can breathe. You know what I mean?" She nodded slowly. "Is it 'cause mommy says you're in the way sometimes?" I closed my eyes. That sentence landed like a punch to the chest. "So she heard it too." "It's because I need to feel like a person again," I said gently. "Not someone people just work around." "You're the best person," she whispered, "and that kept me alive." The next morning, I pulled Erin aside before he left for work. "I found a place," I said simply. He blinked. "Already?" "It's not definite. But I'm thinking about it. I went on a tour yesterday." He leaned against the wall, rubbing his eyes. "Mom, this feels sudden." "It's not," I said. "It's just quiet, like most of my life here has been." He opened his mouth, then shut it, then tried again. "Does Sophie know?" she asked. I was honest. "She deserves that." He nodded. "She'll miss you." "I'll miss her too." Silence again. That same foggy quiet. But now it wasn't peaceful, it was uncomfortable, like sitting in a room where the power just went out and everyone's pretending it's fine. "You're really serious about this," he said. "I am." He didn't say, "Don't go." He didn't say, "Stay." I noticed, later that day, I cleaned out my closet. Not that it took long, just 2 bins and 1 drawer. I packed the quilt first. Then the photo albums. Then my wedding ring, tucked in a small velvet box I hadn't opened in years. I held it in my palm for a long time. It still smelled faintly like Tom's aftershave. He would have understood. He would have told me I was strong. He always did. As I zipped the first suitcase, I felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't fear, not really. It was space, like I'd finally started making room for myself again. That night, Erin cornered me in the hallway. "I heard from Erin that you're planning to move out." I nodded. "I'm looking into it." She crossed her arms. "I just think this is going to confuse Sophie. She's really attached to you." I looked her straight in the eye. "I'm really attached to her too. But I won't stay in a place where I'm only allowed to matter when it's convenient." She blinked, surprised. "You've made it clear I'm a guest, a responsibility, something to manage." "That's not fair." "It's true. Maybe not to you. But to me, it is." She looked away, jaw tight. "You're making a mistake." "No," I said, my voice soft but solid. "I'm finally making a decision." And I walked past her. Heart pounding, but steady. Back in my room, I sat down with my folder from Dana. Reread everything. Rent was manageable. The wait list wasn't long. They even had game nights and a garden. I hadn't touched soil since Tom died. I closed the folder and laid it beside me. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel like a shadow of myself. I felt like me, like Claire, like someone coming back to life. It's strange how making a decision, really making it, doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it feels more like standing in a doorway, one hand on the knob, one foot still inside, the other already out. That's how I felt the day I signed the rental papers. I didn't tell Erin right away. I needed a minute to let it be mine, just mine, a quiet little victory with no applause. Dana handed me the keys in a simple white envelope. You can move in by next weekend, she said, smiling. Welcome home. I nodded, holding back tears. Home, that word hadn't belonged to me in a long time. When I got back to the house, I didn't go in right away. I sat in the car for a while, staring at the garage door, the overgrown grass on the side, the cracked birdbath I'd offered to fix months ago but never got an answer about. I thought about walking in and making a big announcement, telling them I was leaving, giving them a speech, a moment, something final, but that's not how this story works. Not mine. Not this time. Instead, I made dinner. I boiled pasta, heated up marinara, set the table with 4 plates. Aaron looked surprised. Aaron didn't say much. Sophie was in her usual good mood, telling me about a classmate who stuck a crayon up his nose. I laughed with her. I let it be normal, because it was one of our last dinners together, and I didn't want it to be about tension. I wanted it to be about what was still good. Sophie sat beside me and leaned her head on my shoulder halfway through the meal. You smell like flowers. Maybe I'm blooming, I said. She giggled. You're funny, Nana. That night, I couldn't sleep. My chest was tight, not with regret, but with grief. Grief for the version of family I thought I'd have, the one where I grow old in a house filled with love and noise, where I'm not hidden in the background or asked to take up less space. Tom would have hated this hallway life, the way I was tolerated, not loved. I closed my eyes and pictured his hand over mine, like he used to do when he could tell I was about to spiral. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone, he'd say. You just live. You earned that. The next morning, I told Aaron. We were sitting in the backyard. Sophie had gone to a birthday party. Aaron was inside, talking on speakerphone with someone about patio furniture. I signed the lease, I said. He looked up. Really? Move-in date is next Saturday. He stared off for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I guess I should have seen it coming, he said. I think a part of you did, I said quietly. He nodded again. I just didn't think you'd go through with it. I didn't say anything. Is this about Aaron? He finally asked. It's about me, I said. About how I feel here. About how invisible I've become. He let that sit in the air. I don't know what to say, he admitted. You don't have to say anything. I'm not asking you to fight me on it. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I do feel guilty, he said. I just don't know what to do with that. I looked at him, my son, my baby boy who used to bring me dandelions and Lego creations. The man who now avoided eye contact when his wife spoke to me like I was a stranger. I don't need you to do anything, I said. I just need to go. That night, Erin knocked on my door. She didn't wait for me to say come in. She walked in like she owned the house, which, to be fair, she basically did, and stood with her arms crossed, leaning against the doorway. I heard, she said. I looked up from folding laundry. I heard you're moving out. That's right. She didn't speak for a moment. Do you need help packing? She asked, and I couldn't tell if it was sarcasm or just awkwardness. I've got it covered, I said. She looked around the tiny room, the bed, the suitcase, the one sad lamp. Her expression shifted, just slightly. You know, I never meant to make you feel like you didn't belong. I nodded. But you did. She looked down, picking at her nails. I don't always get things right. I know that. I think you get exactly what you want, I said softly. I just stopped getting in the way. She looked at me then, really looked. No snark. No tone. Just a woman realizing maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the center of the universe. Well, she said finally. If you change your mind, I won't. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else, but nothing came. She just nodded and turned around. The door clicked behind her. I stood there in the silence. No one had ever apologized. Not really, not Aaron, not directly, and even though her words were clumsy and late and a little hollow, I took them. Not for her. For me. I took them because letting go doesn't mean you leave angry. It just means you leave. Sophie helped me pack that Saturday. She didn't fully understand it, not in the way adults do, but kids know when things are real. She sat on the bed with one of my sweaters in her lap, running her little hands over the fabric. I'll miss you. I'll miss you too. Can I visit? Absolutely. She looked up. Will I still be your girl? I pulled her into a hug so tight it made my heart hurt. You will always be my girl. I meant it with everything I had. By late afternoon, my things were in the car, 2 suitcases, a box of books, my quilt, a plant Sophie gave me in a painted pot that says Nana's love grows here. I stood in the doorway one last time, that tiny room, that narrow hallway, and then I stepped outside. I didn't cry. I just breathed. The first night in my new place was quiet in a way that didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I sat on the edge of the unfamiliar bed, surrounded by boxes I hadn't unpacked yet, my little table lamp casting soft light on the blank walls. I could still hear my heart beating a little fast. It wasn't fear. It wasn't even sadness. It was relief. No one banging around in the kitchen, no muffled arguments down the hall. No tiptoeing to avoid being in the way. No folded arms or paper-thin smiles. Just me. Just the whir of the fridge and the hum of the night air through the window. I made myself a cup of tea, real tea, in a real mug, not the chipped one Aaron gave me, so I wouldn't break the good ones. I sat by the window with it. The sky was a dusty purple, the kind of color that looks like it's holding a secret. And for the first time in years, I let my body take up space. My shoulders dropped. My stomach relaxed. My hands stopped clenching. I didn't have to earn the right to sit in my own home. I didn't have to apologize for being tired. I didn't have to shrink. The next morning, I woke up at 6:17, no alarm, just the sun touching my face like a whisper. I made toast, real butter, not the off-brand kind I'd gotten used to buying so Aaron wouldn't accuse me of wasting their money. I didn't make anyone else's plate. I didn't clean up after anyone else's crumbs. I didn't wait for permission to sit at the kitchen table. I sat in silence. And it wasn't lonely, it was sacred. Later that morning, I hung up a photo of Tom and me, the one from our 25th anniversary. He's in a suit that didn't quite fit right, and I'm wearing that blue dress he always said made my eyes look like the ocean. We're both laughing, not smiling, laughing, like the kind that comes from the gut. I touched the edge of the frame. We made it, honey, I whispered. Took a while. But I got here. That afternoon, I went for a walk around the complex. Dana, the lady from the leasing office, was outside watering some tomato plants by the small garden behind the rec room. Look who's officially a resident, she smiled. I grinned back. These tomatoes yours? Guilty. You garden? Used to, I said. Before life got tight. She handed me a spare pair of gloves. We meet every Wednesday morning. No pressure, just dirt and company. I nodded, heart swelling. I'd like that. Later that night, I dug through one of my boxes and found my old gardening shears. The handles were rusted, but the blades still felt strong in my hands. Like me. 3 days passed. Then 4. Every day I found something new in the stillness, a way I'd been holding myself too tightly, a kindness I'd stopped offering myself, an ache I didn't know I had until it finally eased. I called Sophie on the 3rd day. She answered. On the first ring, face too close to the screen, hair wild like always, Nana. My eyes watered immediately. Hi, sweetheart. Do you have a bathtub? I laughed. I do. It's a little one. Did you bring the elephant cup? The one we used for rinsing your hair? Of course I did. She beamed. I miss you. I miss you too. Aaron came into the background just then, asking something about snacks, and Sophie tilted the camera toward the ceiling. Can I come visit you? I lowered my voice. We'll talk to your parents about it, okay? Soon. Okay. I'll bring my markers. My girl, always ready to build a new world with me, even in crayon and construction paper. By the end of the first week, I was sleeping better than I had in years. No more couch naps. No more overheard judgments. No more pretending that crumbs didn't bother me or that comments didn't hurt. I finally had a door I could shut without guilt. I finally had a nameplate outside my unit with just my name, not Aaron and Aaron, not Grandma's room, just Claire. The following Wednesday, I showed up to the garden. A few other folks were already there, Helen, who made jokes about her knees every time she bent down, Richard, who wore socks with sandals and said he used to be an accountant until he got wise, and Myra, who mostly hummed 70s songs while planting snap peas. No one asked me who I lived with. No one asked if I was staying long. They just handed me a shovel and made space for me in the dirt, and that was everything. I planted 2 rows of marigolds. Tom used to say they were stubborn little flowers, just like you. I smiled at the memory and pressed the soil down with my hands, palms dirty and heart light. That weekend, Aaron called. Hey, Mom, he said. Just checking in. How's the new place? It's quiet, I said. Too quiet? No. The right kind. There was a pause. Sophie keeps asking about you. She's welcome to visit. He cleared his throat. Yeah. About that. Aaron's not totally comfortable with her going over alone yet. I waited, but maybe you could come visit us soon, maybe for dinner. I'll think about it, I said. But just so we're clear, I don't plan to go back to being the extra person in the background. I know, he said. I think we're starting to understand that. I didn't answer right away. I just let the silence do the talking. That night, I walked barefoot around my place, feeling the cool floor under my feet. I brushed my teeth with the good toothpaste. I made a sandwich at midnight just because I could. I sat on the couch and watched old episodes of Golden Girls while eating chips out of the bag, and not once did I feel like I had to ask anyone if that was okay. It was more than okay. It was mine. It had been 2.5 weeks since I moved out when Sophie came to visit for the first time. Aaron dropped her off on a Saturday morning. He didn't come in, just waved from the car like he wasn't sure if he was still allowed to step into my world. I didn't mind. Some doors don't close with slams, some just drift shut behind you while you keep walking forward. Sophie ran up the sidewalk with a backpack twice her size and a smile that made me feel like I'd done at least one thing right in this life. Hi, Nana. I brought markers. And stickers. And my fairy wings. Well, thank God, I said, pretending to wipe my forehead. I was worried this place didn't have enough sparkle. She giggled and wrapped her arms around me so tight I had to blink away the tears. Kids don't care about square footage. Or financial planning or who pays for what. They care about who makes them feel safe, seen, loved. She ran inside like she'd lived there all her life. This is your kitchen, she asked, spinning around. It's small. It's mine. I said, and she nodded like that made it bigger somehow. We made banana pancakes, her request. She spilled half the flour. I let her stir the batter even though it sloshed over the bowl. I didn't correct her. I didn't rush her. We had timed out. I put on music from the little speaker Dana gave me as a welcome home gift, and soon, we were dancing in the kitchen, barefoot, messy, laughing. My living room may have been 10 feet wide, but it felt like a ballroom with her in it. After breakfast, she drew me a picture, the two of us standing in front of a small house with a big sun. She labeled it in bold marker strokes, Nana's real home. I taped it to the fridge immediately. Later, while she colored on the rug, I made tea and sat on the couch, watching her hum to herself like the world made perfect sense. She looked up suddenly. Mom said it's weird that you wanted to live by yourself. I set the mug down slowly. She said people your age are supposed to live with family. I forced a small smile. Well, sometimes families work better when they live in different places. She nodded thoughtfully. Like when me and my friend Chloe had to stop sitting next to each other in class because we kept poking each other. Exactly like that. She looked relieved, like she'd been carrying the worry of it in her tiny body. She also said she doesn't know why you left. That one hit me harder. I leaned in. Sweetheart, grown-ups don't always understand things right away. But I left because I needed space to be myself. That doesn't mean I love you less. It means I love me, too. She reached over and patted my knee. I get that. And maybe she did, maybe not the whole thing, but something in her heart understood. It in a way Aaron still didn't. That evening, after we watched Matilda for the third time, I ran a bath in the tiny tub. Sophie sat in the warm water while I handed her plastic dinosaurs and poured water gently over her hair with the elephant cup. You never rush me, she said, almost casually. I don't like being rushed either. She thought for a second. Mom rushes a lot. She's got a lot on her plate. You didn't rush even when I dropped a whole egg on the floor. That egg was ready to go, honestly. She laughed so hard water came out her nose. I wrapped her in a towel afterward. And let her pick one of my oversized t-shirts to sleep in. She chose the one that said my garden, my rules, because that's what you are now, right? She said. Your own boss. Something like that. We curled up in my bed, under my quilt, in a room that didn't feel small anymore. It felt like it had purpose, like it was finally the right shape for my life. The next morning, Aaron came to pick her up. This time, he came to the door. Hey, he said, hands in his pockets. Hey. He glanced around. This is nice. Cozy. It's home. He nodded, eyes dropping to the floor. Sophie had a good time. She hasn't stopped talking about banana pancakes. She's welcome anytime. She asked if she could come every weekend. You okay with that? I asked. He hesitated. Yeah. I think I am. There was a beat of silence, and I didn't rush to fill it. I've learned not to. I've been thinking, he finally said. About everything, about how we treated you. I stayed quiet. He cleared his throat. I let a lot happen that I shouldn't have. I was so busy trying to keep things smooth with Aaron that I didn't notice how bumpy they were for you. You noticed, I said gently. You just didn't want to deal with it. He winced. It's not just about what Aaron did, I added. It's about what you didn't, the times you looked away, the times I disappeared right in front of you. He nodded. I know. He looked around the room again, at the little potted plant by the window, the fridge drawing, the folded blanket on the couch. You seem different here, he said. Lighter. I am. He nodded, then asked, can we start fresh? I looked at him, really looked. And for the first time in years, I saw a man who maybe wanted to understand instead of control, who maybe missed his mother, who maybe was willing to see her now. We can try, I said. He smiled. I'd like that. After they left, I stood in the middle of the room, letting the silence settle around me again, but this time, it didn't feel like absence. It felt like presence, like every inch of this space finally belonged to me. I looked at Sophie's drawing on the fridge and ran my hand over the words she'd written. Home. She got it right. It's been 3 months since I moved out, and you know what's strange? Nothing's dramatic anymore. There was no explosion, no family feud, no dramatic text messages or last-minute please, just a slow shift, like a tide pulling away from shore and carving out a new coastline without asking for permission, and honestly, that kind of quiet change feels more powerful than anything loud ever could. I spend most mornings in the garden now. The marigolds are thriving, stubborn little things just like me. I even have a small patch of basil that I talk to like it's an old friend. The other residents tease me for it, but gently. We all have our quirks. Helen bakes muffins every Thursday. Myra taught me how to play rummikub. Richard keeps a chair open for me at every movie night. Nobody rushes me. Nobody tiptoes around what I need. Nobody needs me to disappear to keep the peace. I'm not anyone's burden here. I'm just Claire, and that's enough. Sophie still visits most weekends. She calls them Nana sleepovers, and she packs her bag like she's going on an expedition: books, glitter pens, exactly 4 stuffed animals, and a snack she insists we save for emergencies. The first time she came back after that initial visit, she looked around the apartment like she was checking to see if it had changed. "You didn't move again," she said. "Nope." "Good. This place likes you." I smiled. "I like it too. We've started new routines: pancakes on Saturday, story time under a blanket fort, and on Sunday mornings, we paint together at the little fold-out table by the window. She says she wants to be an artist now, or a pancake chef, or both, and I let her believe she can be anything, because she can. She already is. Aaron came by one Tuesday afternoon. Alone. No warning. I was watering my basil when I saw him walking up the path. His hands were stuffed into his pockets again, like they always are when he's not sure what version of himself to be. "Hey, Mom." "Hey, sweetheart." He looked around, awkward. "You always talk to your plants?" "Only the ones I expect to grow." He smirked. "That's fair." We sat on the bench near the tomatoes. The silence wasn't tense, just unfamiliar, like we were trying on a new version of this relationship to see if it fit. He cleared his throat. I wanted to say something. Properly. I waited. "I'm sorry," he said. "For all of it, for letting things get so far." "I know. I think I was afraid that if I stood up to Aaron, everything would fall apart. And if you didn't, I would." He nodded. "And you did." I looked at him, not the man who disappointed me, but the boy I raised, the boy who once cried because he stepped on an ant, the boy who still existed somewhere beneath all that grown-up noise. "I'm not angry," I said. "I just needed space to remember who I am." He looked down at his hands. "I miss having you around." "You're always welcome here," I said. "But only if you come as my son, not someone who needs me to be small so everything else works." He nodded again. "Got it." Then he did something I wasn't ready for. He hugged me, not a quick one, not one of those distracted, over-the-shoulder squeezes, a real one, the kind that holds time. "Thank you for not giving up on me," he whispered. I held him back. "Thank you for finally seeing me." That night, I sat by the window with my tea, no TV, no noise, just the hum of the fan and the sound of crickets outside. This life I have now, it's not big, it's not flashy, but it's mine. Every inch of it: the chipped mug I picked out myself, the mismatched couch pillows, the books stacked in crooked towers by the wall. I don't have much, but I don't owe anyone for any of it either, and that kind of freedom? That's peace. Aaron texted me last week, just a simple message: "Sophie talks about you constantly. Thank you for loving her the way you do." I stared at it for a long time before I answered. "I'll always love her, no matter where I live." She replied with a heart emoji. Nothing else. I didn't need more. I wasn't expecting a full reckoning. I don't need Aaron to change overnight. But the ice is thawing, slowly. And I'm not the one standing in the cold anymore. Yesterday, I found an old voice message from Tom. I didn't even know it was there, one of those accidental keepsakes saved in a folder on my phone. "Hey, love. Just checking in. Don't forget to eat something today, alright? I'll bring home dinner. Miss you." Hearing his voice made me cry for the first time in weeks, but not because I was sad, because I felt him here, not as a ghost, as a reminder of who I was, of who I still am. "Tonight, I'll make tea. I'll water the basil. I'll read a few pages of that mystery novel I've been picking at. Tomorrow, Sophie's coming again. She says we need to build a rocket ship out of cardboard and eat cereal for dinner like astronauts." Sounds perfect. To me, this life isn't what I planned. It's not the version I thought I'd get after 66 years of showing up for everybody else, but it's real. It's quiet, and it's mine. And if you're listening, if any part of this story made you feel seen, please take this from me: you don't have to wait until you're falling apart to choose yourself. You don't have to keep shrinking just to keep the peace. You don't need anyone's permission to come home to yourself, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk down that hallway, open the door, and leave.